and understanding to survive and analyze your problems without being blind, without being blind.
Talking to my carcass.
All right, welcome back to Ascend Your Podcast. As usual, it's me and Julian. Today, we're going to be covering a little bit of the election fraud, if you want to call it that, or good old hearsay, as most courts are calling it. We'll see how that comes out. We got some drama in Japan between, I wouldn't even call it drama, but we got some situations arising with the military's bases in Japan. We also got the continuing COVID crisis in Gaza, and we got a couple other things to share with you later on. Julian, how's it going?
Well, my day is now the best day ever because I'm seeing your beautiful face. And look at that beard. It's getting scruffy. It's sexy.
I just trimmed it the other day, you liar.
How you doing, baby?
I'm doing good. Now looking forward to work and getting COVID, but that's the life we live.
True. And I'm forgetting it's almost Thanksgiving.
It is. And yet another year I have failed to get work so I can avoid my family. 3 years in a row I've failed at this. Last year I failed 2 times. Not only did I have to spend time with them, then I went to work overnight.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah.
You're taking a lot of thanks and giving taken away from you.
No, but shout out to COVID. It's only going to be me, my dad, and one brother, Matt. So, it's a good number of Henrys to be in the building. 3.
Fair enough.
10 for families, 3 for Henrys. I think that's a good law.
Oh, man.
All right, enough about my personal life.
Now the people love it. You're the people's champ.
People can suck it.
I can't wait till you get famous one day.
Except the people listening. You're the best.
Yes. Speaking of which, we just hit 200 listens. Shout out to all of you. We really appreciate it.
Big shout out to everyone that's come on to our show too.
Absolutely.
I've been loving these interviews.
Absolutely. And we got more coming.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do. I thought I was going to get through this year without reading a book.
Ryan Henry reads a book on Catholic social teaching in Uganda. Woo! Who would have thought?
Yeah, not me. Usually book. Granted, that was kind of the shit I always had to read at Western because I was minoring in history.
Right.
But like I said, I knew nothing about Uganda except that you can get malaria there and that my friend got mugged. The 2 things I knew about it. Oh, and that their police reports are done in crayon. My favorite part of Uganda is the police reports.
I swear, man, nobody believes that story anymore. I'm happy that the picture's on Facebook. It's up there.
Yeah, it is.
It was done. Police report. What was it? Theft?
Yeah, it was either red or green crayon.
Yeah. On a little face like this.
Right. No, like most of our stories, I don't tell them because people won't believe us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you threw an egg at an undercover cop and you got away. Okay. We didn't know they were undercover. Okay?
Right. When the car suddenly stopped.
Might have to edit that one out. We know CIA is listening. All right. Well, back to this election fraud, or whatever we want to call it. Boy, I really don't know where to start on this. for 2 weeks, I've been wanting to really talk about this, and I try and do a little bit of reading. I really don't even know where to start with that either, because there are hundreds of affidavits, I want to say.
Right.
A few things Giuliani didn't lie about in that press conference was that there were plenty of affidavits and that the media wasn't going to cover what he said, mostly because your hair was dripping, dude. Please tell me you saw that.
Oh, absolutely. And I kind of feel bad for him because out of his long law career and his long political career, the last thing he's going to be remembered for is his hair dye dripping on his last press conference.
I mean, the last 4 years of him, I think that would be a win. If people just remember that embarrassing moment instead of the piece of shit he is,
right?
And I think that's a win.
Right.
And before this, people were going to remember him for the ending of Borat 2.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
He's got a lot of things. And didn't he kiss Donald Trump when he was dressed up in drag?
I would not know. But
you haven't seen that one.
This is new to me. Yeah.
Oh, this is an old video. Giuliani's dressed up in drag. And
is this real?
It's real. Like they're doing like
a skit.
It's not like real. Yeah, they're doing like a skit. I forget what it was for. But Giuliani's just like doing the girl voice and all. And I'm almost certain that he gave Trump a little smooch.
Okay.
It could have been the fake one, Hollywood with the tricks.
These are our, don't even get me started. So what are your overall thoughts on this thing? I mean, we did not go through every case like a lawyer and try to break it down and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's what lawyers and the court system is for. But overall, what is your thoughts and takes on it?
Probably the same since November 4th. Like, I wouldn't doubt that there is cases of fraud. I think we have the capability as a country, but it's more statewide. It's the state's responsibility to audit the votes. And from what they are all doing it. Whether you trust them or not, that's a whole nother, well, it's not really a whole nother conversation. It's in the topic we're talking about. But it's hard to start that argument. If you don't trust the system, there's nothing, I don't trust them, but you got to take their word sometime. Otherwise, it's just anarchy.
Yeah.
But so I think it's very possible that there was fraud, and if there was, we need to find it and fix it. But all these cases they're bringing up, it's just a lot of hearsay, lots of hypocrisy. Gotta love the video of the two protests going on at the same time. One saying stop the vote or stop the count, and the other one was what the fuck were they saying? Stop the count and keep the vote?
Or count the vote, stop the vote.
I can believe them, but they really don't make it easy with press conferences like that. And everything that I have read, it's just a bunch of hearsay. It sounds like something you'd probably hear me with my tinfoil hat. Like, I can believe it, but, until you have the evidence, which you've claimed you have tons of, but you can't show it, you can only show it to the court, but when you're in court, you haven't shown it. Please tell me, like, where I'm confused. I don't know what to fucking think.
No, okay.
I am really trying to see their side on this, but
I think what people are trying to really get at is sworn affidavits. I'm not a lawyer, but sworn affidavits are used in the court system. And one of their defenses has been, well, this is the evidence, these affidavits. But if these things were happening, where there was fraud happening on the scale that they had, they would be able to get those ballots that they claim are being miscounted, or the dead people, or all these cases of fraud that they're claiming. They would be able to get them and then present them to the court system. Like, hey, here's the 10,000 dead people that voted. Here, they're all dead. Here they are. And I don't
even think that's really along. Sorry to cut you off. I don't think that's, from what I've read, the line of fraud that they're trying to prove.
Right.
Like some cases, I think they're trying to just go for misconduct. I think it's Michigan, they're really trying to push the narrative that they were stopping poll watchers from being within a certain distance.
Right.
And that got thrown out because I'm pretty sure it's Michigan, but the state I was reading about doesn't have any state laws about how far they need to be or can be within. So there's no law that was broken there.
Right.
Legally speaking. But I've been trying to put myself in the other foot. Like, if we had, say, 200 affidavits claiming, like, Trump surrogates were, like, flipping votes or stopping the count, doing illegal ballots, would we be, like, we'd be having the same press conferences? I would hope whoever's hairdresser does a little bit better on the hair dye on our side, but beggars can't be choosers. I feel like if Trump had won, we would pretty much be doing the same shit.
I disagree. When Trump won,
I don't think Biden himself would be like Trump is, but I'm saying like the, not like legal wise, like what Giuliani's doing. I don't think we'd have this. I'm saying like just the right doesn't really believe. I think they're actually really coming around. I'm loving to see people starting to see what a fucking buffoon this guy's been. Like,
oh, please.
4 years too late, 5 or 6 years too late. But we've been through this before. We think like, oh boy, the right is waking up. Make me that Republican Party that I can vote for, because I really am sick of these Democrats. You guys just aren't much better. Be better. I will gladly vote for you.
Look, at the end of the day, I get it. But I'm over it in the sense that affidavits are evidence. But if you're gonna be accusing some, like these examples that they're using can just as easily happen on the other side. And even some of the counties that they have been accusing of are run by Republicans. So it comes down to two things. What kind of patterns has Trump been using when he talks about things that he's for? And we've seen last election, he brought up voter fraud when it came, like if you want to look at sworn affidavits, look at the Mueller report. I know it's a 300-page document, but it very clearly shows Trump's personal conduct and how it was very, very wrong the way that he conducted himself as president, meaning threatening or using his position of power to sway another elected official or official in government. So if you're going to use these affidavits in support of Trump, then you need to be just as critical of Trump's conduct when Mueller, or Mueller, as you used to always call me out on, had a 232-page report on Trump's conduct. Yes, it wasn't collusion, but there was a lot of other stuff. So looking at that pattern of Trump and the way he uses his power, I I'm sorry, I'm not going to believe him. There's a difference between voter fraud and voting irregularities. Yes, Ryan, count to 100. Count $100 bills to 100. I guarantee you don't get it right on the first try.
I think I have a thing. I might have a dollar bill somewhere around here.
But there's a difference between irregularities and fraud.
That's one thing I keep hearing about. Like, I forget which state. I think it was Pennsylvania. They're talking about the mail-in ballots that just took the vote. Which I was telling you election night. I was like, they're only at like 70%, man. And I forget which city it was I was looking at. I was like, they're gonna bring it back. All those mail-ins, they can't start counting them till like 11. It's like, and I'm sorry, like, I'd be surprised if Trump didn't get any mail-in votes, but the candidate that is saying don't vote by mail, I'm not going to be surprised if no one votes for him by mail. I'm sure it wouldn't surprise me if Trump just demolished Biden in show up polls, like voting on site.
Yeah.
I bet Trump won in landslides.
No, you're right. I mean,
and
yeah.
I don't feel safe with the mail-in. I think there's pros and cons to it, and unless we can be sure that none of this, that, you know, either make the penalties for, I don't know. I don't know enough about it to be real safe about it, but I don't feel too safe about any ways we vote. Because that's one of the things that, what's her fucking name? Sidney Powell was really trying to dig in on. What was the two names of them? Like Dominion, and there's another like voting system company that she was trying to say, like, oh, they got them George Soros ties. They know the Venezuelan leader. Like, they were pulling out all the cards. Clinton's, Black Lives Matter, they blamed every enemy. Republicans, like, blamed the Democrats. Like, any top conspiracy about the Democrats that was brought out in the press conference. Like, all those big elites were to blame for this. I have seen videos of, like, how some of these machines can be hacked. It is something to be worried about. And even Elizabeth Warren was, I forget who she was bringing this up with. It was another senator. They were just saying, like, you know, some of these machines do have vulnerabilities that we need to take a look at or take seriously.
Yeah.
So that, like, when I'm listening to that botched, to say the least, botched press conference, like, as a conspiracy guy, I do try and hear him out. It's somewhat plausible. Just, you know, if it's so widespread, you'd think you could find evidence in one of the states.
Yeah.
Just one. But yeah, here we are.
Well, I guess all the judges
Sorry to go off on my rant.
I guess all of the judges that threw out all of his cases are part of the Democratic deep state. Oh,
without a doubt. Especially those fuckers in Georgia, they're all Democrats.
Right.
You can't get much more liberal than a Republican from Georgia. There's just nothing more liberal or progressive.
I mean, it is what it is, and it looks like Trump is finally going to concede.
They're so progressive, they're getting a new flag, or they got one.
Georgia?
Or no, maybe that's Mississippi.
That was Mississippi.
Oh no, Georgia's the peach, isn't it?
Yeah, Georgia's the peach. Yeah, they love peaches.
Yeah,
But I don't got anything more to say about it. This will be forgotten about. I'm just like,
I hope not.
I mean, do people remember what happened?
I hope nothing about these last 4 years are not forgotten as much as it needs to be forgotten.
Do you remember what happened during Clinton's years, other than his, time with Monica?
Nothing about Clinton. I wasn't even old enough to remember what's her name, Monica Lewinsky, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I didn't. I fucking found out about that in maybe high school. I think it was when Obama was running. It's like the first election I really paid attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget. I think it was my grandma talking about like Bill, like she's gonna vote for Obama because she liked Bill Clinton. She's like, that's the first time I think I heard that word being used. He's like, I never really cared about all that womanizing shit. He seemed like a nice guy. I was like, womanizing shit? What are you talking about? But all I remember from his presidency was me playing N64 and watching Space Jam. That's all I fucking cared about at that time.
Right.
First taste of news I really ever watched was 2 weeks in 9/11 coverage. And that's mostly because they had on fucking Nickelodeon. What the fuck do you remember from Clinton's presidency that I don't? We're the same age, motherfucker.
All I'm saying is that we're victims of the present, and that, especially in the age of social media, every situation, every comment, everything is so amplified to make it seem bigger than it is. It makes that mentality or that phenomena even larger. I don't remember, like the criticisms of like an athlete, he might have said something stupid, and it's like the biggest storyline in all of sports. And then 1 year later, no one can recall that he said that. It's just like that. That's what I'm trying to get at,
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can just look at Hollywood for that. Like, I swear every year we have like 3 or 4 like drugged out ones everyone's talking about for like 3 months, and then the next one, like, no one's talking about Will Smith's entanglement or whatever the fuck they're.
Yeah.
like what I'm talking about. Like, never. That's all you fucking saw for 2 weeks. It's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, so what? Like, a bunch of rich people fucking each other. Why the hell does that affect me?
Yeah.
But no, it's all definitely amplified because it's everywhere. What do you do that you're not like? Well, I guess I'm talking from a millennial standpoint, but I always got a fucking smartphone in my hand.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say I'm addicted to social media, but you can definitely make the argument we all are.
Mm-hmm.
Except Mark, because he's better than us and doesn't use Facebook. So how about this article you sent me about the military base in Japan? That was an interesting read.
Right. So The Intercept published an article a couple weeks ago about how the U.S. military is responsible for widespread PFA pollution in Japan. If you guys aren't familiar with PFAs are, join the club. But let me read to you guys what the PFAs are. PFAs are synthetic chemicals found in many products, including food packaging, household cleaners, and nonstick cookware. And that should give you the type of message what they would do to the human body. But basically, this article talks about how the U.S. military and throughout different bases in Japan have released these PFAs into the environment to the point where there's been certain cities or villages that have been drinking contaminated water. And the extent of this is not 100% known, but there's no question that the city in Okinawa, which there's a U.S. military base right near to it, has been very heavily contaminated by PFAs. And these PFAs are used it's a use of firefighting foam. And so we're not here to bash the military or anything like this. And
We're not?
no, well,
I'm only kidding.
like it's tough how to say this, right? Because like there's an example down here that you and I were talking about earlier where there's an accident. There's a time where there's a drunk Marine who accidentally released 38,000 liters of PFAs. And he got a pay cut and 3 months in the brig. But there's been a long history of not just U.S. military, but you look at the Iraq War, you look at the Vietnam War. But those are times of war. But you take a time in Japan where there's just these bases, the U.S. military is being irresponsible with its use of stuff that's chemically harmful to humans. Now, it's easy to say that, and then I look at my own room, and it's not very clean either, right? So I'm not here to just bash on somebody and say, well, they need to do this and this, but at the same time, all of us are very guilty of not being environmentally responsible. So it's important to bring awareness to this, but what is the solution? It's easy to just bash the U.S. military for being irresponsible with harmful chemicals, but they're obviously not the only one,
No, and that's kind of what I was gonna get at. This doesn't really stand out as far as atrocities by U.S. military. It's kind of on the lighter side, because I can't remember which documentary it was, but this sounds a lot like do you know the company 3M?
No, I don't.
Like you'll I think it's 3M, something like that. They got you'll see their brand on tape sometimes. I think they make the nonstick pans.
Oh,
There was
okay.
a big case where they had their factory and the shit they use, it might have been PFAs. They had that shit leaking into the local community's water, and the cancer numbers were ridiculous.
Right.
Skyrocketing. So I don't know what part negligence pays, or I don't know what the legal term is, purposeful negligence. What's the word for that?
Well,
Criminal negligence, I guess.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. A drunk Marine starting a fire. What are you gonna do about that? Stop when Henry's in the Marine Corps.
But
I guess I'd have to read more than one article on this to really start bashing.
Right.
But I see it as the military base that they probably, I don't know what their function is there. They have a deal signed with Japan where they don't have to follow their local rules, so they probably got a leader in there that was like, fuck them, we don't have to do it. And that shit flows right through the base, I would assume.
Right. So, you have 450,000 people that live in Okinawa that are drinking cancerous water because of a foreign actor's decision-making. But this isn't the first time. It even happens to our own troops, right? We've heard about these cases where they're burning.
Said a foreign ally.
A foreign ally. There's many examples of when troops are serving abroad, that they're burning really, really toxic material. And then you see these veterans end up having cancer at like in their, early 40s, high 30s, And so there's this irresponsibility when it comes to, we're talking about tanks, airplanes. These are things that need to be looked at responsibly. It's easy to say that when you look at almost every company, like you look at a restaurant, any restaurant in the United States is not being environmentally clean how they make their food, how they take care of their trash, things like that. So I'm not trying to bash the military, but at the same time, it speaks to how we need more people in positions of power within all of our institutions, that's their specific job. We need somebody in the military or wherever, that's like, their job is to make sure that we're doing shit right. There's got to be an environment person. Like, yeah, that is going to suck. He's going to be annoying he or she's going to be annoying as fuck, but they need to be there because they're not. Like,
It wouldn't surprise me that job is there and filled. Just, like we have the head of EPA right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
But he came from a fossil fuel company, so we don't really have a head of EPA right now.
That's fair.
But also, like, you were going on the lines, like, these guys are getting cancer early in age. That was my first thought, looking at that one spill they had with all that foam.
Yeah.
Just this firefighting foam I wonder if that's why we've never seen it used in the States, because it could be that harmful.
I can only imagine.
But who had to clean that up?
That's a fair question.
That's a lot. How much did they say spilled out?
Tens of thousands of liters.
Oh, yeah. This is December 2013 on a malfunctioning sprinkler system. And it's a malfunction, though, right?
Yeah.
Why do you need a sprinkler system for a place filled with the shit that's spilling out stops fire? Why do you have a sprinkler system?
That's a fair question. But we'll put the article in the description for people to check it out themselves, because there's quite a lot to take from this. We're not scientific experts. We don't know how PFAs work, or we're not there at the base and how the decisions are made. But at the same time, there's this pattern there's a cost to U.S. military operations, and that cost isn't rectified to the people that are affected, because like you said, the government isn't going to pay. The military base isn't the one cleaning it up necessarily. They're not the one filtering the water. Like, that's the taxpayers over there that are going to pay for it, not us.
I'm pretty sure it said in this article that, like, we're off the hook because of the treaty we signed with them.
Right. It's human nature, right? Like
or the whatever agreement we had to have our base there.
Right.
Just a bunch of cutting corners, I feel.
But we all cut corners,
Yeah.
And
that's why none of us have a good job. Oh, I love laughing at my pain.
And I think another question that's been brought up is that, the guy that wrote this article, I need to read his book, and then the book that he has about the long history of military using chemicals improperly. But he says that the U.S. has refused to regulate the chemicals in this class, despite the fact that they persist indefinitely in the environment and have been linked to cancer and many other illnesses. So if they're that toxic, not only to our own troops, but also to the environments of which we use them, then we shouldn't use them at all.
But then my non-stick pans are going to be more expensive. Are you going to pay for that?
No.
But then fuck off with your liberal regulations.
Yeah. I know. But
save the planet my ass. As long as my Walmart receipt doesn't go up, save whatever you want.
And everybody listening out there, like, it is not unpatriotic to criticize. Like, that's how you get better. That's how I know, like, these media talking heads, these expert social media talking hosts love to say any criticism of the government or the military or basically their ideas is unpatriotic. But if you have that standpoint, then you're the one being unpatriotic. Criticism is needed so that we can hold people accountable. And even if you're wrong in that criticism, at least that's the whole point of the power of balance and checks and balances.
And it also gets you free views from Virginia. Shout out to CIA.
I know if the title of this is U.S. military, what is it? U.S. military
Yeah.
responsible for pollution in Japan. From an article from The Intercept.
Gotta get them views.
Right.
Yeah, right. Anything Intercept is already flagged.
Oh, for sure.
Let's go. What do we got next?
So
Gaza.
we got Gaza. In Gaza, the Gaza Strip, which is a small section of Palestine or Israeli-occupied Palestine. The health ministry in Gaza has declared a COVID-19 disaster with a near health system collapse. It's one of the most crowded. Gaza is just one of the most crowded places in the world, on the earth, man. It's just an absolute disaster there. The state of Israel has completely blockaded the Gaza Strip, both by sea, land, and air. Now, anytime you hear a government say national security reasons, you need to stop yourself and be like, what does that actually mean? Well, part of the blockade is that the population there is heavy regulated, meaning everything that goes into the Gaza Strip is controlled by the Israeli military. And so there's been a massive shortage of key medical supplies, even before Corona, but especially now with Corona, especially when it comes to ventilators, all types of medical supplies that you could think of. Those supplies are not reaching the Gaza Strip. And it's a huge humanitarian disaster, and that's been the argument for a while. But the Israeli military then will always say, well, Hamas, that's why this blockade exists. But even the U.S. military, when they're occupying a certain place, they still allow humanitarian supplies to get to the people that need it. You know, and that's a key difference, is that this is purposeful. Why? Because they need to make life as difficult as possible for people there, so that they can ascertain their position of power. They need to have more control. You know, everything, even to get into Gaza, is so difficult. You know, even the West Bank, to be honest with you. So this is just, to me, regardless of where you are, for medical supplies not get to the population, there's a lot of people that live there. It's just a humanitarian disaster, and we need to hold them accountable.
Now, how long has this blockade been going on? I feel like it's been since early years of Obama.
Yeah. It's been going on for a long time, over 20 years. It was imposed in 2007, so right before Obama took office.
Oh, okay. What had happened in 2007?
Man, I need to inform myself better about Gaza. I could talk about the West Bank all day, but has to probably do something with Hamas taking political control in Gaza. And when there's two main parties when it comes to the Palestinian Authority. It's Hamas, Fatah, and there's probably another one. But Hamas, the political party Hamas, did take control in Gaza. And once that happened, Hamas has been known for some parts of Hamas, because Hamas is a big organization. Parts of Hamas have been known for the rockets that fire toward Tel Aviv or other terrorist activity. So that's
Right.
So once they took control, that's when the blockade was instituted. Now I get on the surface, it's like, well,
have they had an election since?
Have they had an election since? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not.
I wonder if that would, in both, like, like countries playing hardball with you for voting this guy in. Are you gonna be like, okay, if we vote the other party, things could lessen up, or we stick to this guy? It's a fuck you, like, it's a patriotic act of defiance.
Right. And it's easy for things to get convoluted, right? Because once you say terrorism, then you will feel justified in the actions you take, right? Because of Hamas, parts of Hamas have conducted terrorist attacks and things of that nature. But you have to, with these kinds of things, is why does Hamas even exist in the first place, right? The whole fight is that they would argue is that they're fighting for the freedom of the Palestinian people because of the terrorist acts that the state of Israel has committed against the Palestinian people. So, but what is the point of regulating medical supplies to hospitals? Why do that?
I mean, I could think of a reason they might say, just to, shut it up. Be like, we don't know exactly what all the equipment is or who it's going to.
Yeah.
Like, say, give me a war-torn country in Africa. Like, you want to send all the supplies you want to the people suffering there, but there's no guarantee that all those supplies aren't going to the warlords that already have control.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it is that easy to think of a reason. I'm sure that people high up have better lawyers than me.
Right. And no, and I concede to that point. And for people looking at it from the outside in, there's a million reasons you can think of, especially if you're very supportive of the Israeli state. It's easy to look at that. But at the same time, when you're looking at the amount of poverty, the rate of unemployment, you're looking at all these other factors, and what is the blockade actually doing? If your goal is to get rid of Hamas leadership, if that's the goal, whether you agree with it or not, how does instituting a blockade, which will make everybody hate you more by making everybody suffer more, the right way to do it? That means that to me signifies that that's not the actual goal, right?
Well, I could see it in a different way, though. You blockade them, and I mean, who are the people going to blame? The government that, like, their government that can't get it done with the other people? Like, say when we sanction the fuck out of Iran or North Korea,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they hate America, but I'm pretty sure the big strategy here is they've hated America all their life, but there's a government that's supposed to be for them that's still not putting shit on the table for them. Eventually, they're going to look within, I think, is the hope.
That is absolutely fair. I think,
and that's why I was saying. That's why I was asking if they had any elections since the 2007 blockade, because it'd be kind of like a referendum on Hamas's leadership. Like, do we want to make that big political stance against Israel again, or do we want to take a step back in our rhetoric against Israel just to have a little relief. Go with a party that isn't so outspoken, let's say.
Right. Those are all fair points you brought up, and it's an open discussion. And I've never been to Gaza, but I think maybe one of the key differences is that Gaza is a very, very small, very, very small piece of land, relatively speaking. It's really, really small. And the people there have been under Israeli military occupation for a very long time. So although
probably the 40s, right?
Yeah. So that history, when you've been occupied under the same people, and you've been for such a long time, you're not going to see this, let's say, divide in who to blame, right? Everybody understands that I can't get a permit to leave the Gaza Strip, not because of Hamas, because when I get to the checkpoint for the Israeli military, they're going to say no, or I'm not going to get permission from the Israeli authorities to even leave the Gaza Strip or get a job. The unemployment is so high in Gaza, but it's so hard to get a permit to work. Every facet of your life is controlled by them. There was an example where there was guys fishing in Gaza Strip, and then they had their boat destroyed by the Israeli Navy because they were under threat. There's just so many examples of the use of violence against people in Gaza, and that humanitarian situation there has been like that for so long. So I get what you're saying, and I know I'm a little biased, but
what you just said kind of goes against what I did just say. Israel isn't doing what we do with North Korea and Iran.
Right.
We sanction the hell out of them and kind of fuck right off. They're hitting them on both sides.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
You can make their leaders the enemies, but you're still. So it reminds me of the IRA. What the fuck else choice are you leaving these people?
Exactly. And like I said, I've spoken to about this before. It's been incremental settler colonization. What does that mean? Is that every year they get more and more of the land. And at the end of the day, what does it say in the Constitution? This is the land for the Jewish people. And why have they occupied that land for so long? Why have they done it for so long? It's because they want the land. That's the main goal. That's why the settlers moved to the West Bank. That's just the main goal. And that's how their whole strategies operate around, that these people are the enemy and the land is ours. So within that framework, what kind of decisions are you going to make? You're not looking for peaceful resolutions,
Yeah, that is a standpoint you don't really hear often in the States. If your end game was just getting all this land and you had the world watching you, how can you do it? Dancing on a thin line. That's how Israel's doing it.
Well, one of the
I feel like there's better ways to go about it, but they like treading that line.
Well, part of it is revisionist history, man. How many people in the States know about the Nakba or anything that's happening there, man? They control, especially with Trump. We can see now, we're in our mid-20s. The power of narrative will never cease to exist.
It's as old as history.
Yeah. The older I get, the more I realize, I always try to fight against it, but the more I realize it's just such a part of reality due to human nature, that how do you fight the power of narrative?
Yeah. Even fighting the power of a narrative is your narrative. And then you'd have to fight that narrative. And then you have to fight that. It's a never-ending fight.
Oh, shit.
Watch a little too much Joe Rogan this last couple of days.
I get, there's, I think it's, at the end of the day, like, the United States, we stand for a lot of humanitarian and human rights stuff, whether we are always right or not. And U.S. military, when it came to Iraq lately, or like we always were supportive of providing humanitarian supplies. We've never been the ones to not cut it off. Whether it always reaches the people or not is a fair question, as you raised. But at the end of the day, we're making sure that the supply, at least there's an attempt for those people to get the supplies that they need. And it's evident. I mean, this is all the hospitals in Gaza are funded by European, funded by like European governments or us. Like they're built by European governments and us because people there don't have the money to build them or get the supplies.
Right.
So I don't know. We've been talking about this. That's the frustration of the Palestinian people. Like people have been talking about this shit for how long, and it's only gotten worse.
Generations, apparently.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're just coming into the arena now.
Right. But anyway, shall we move on to a different topic?
Yeah. I mean, I want to give half a shout out to Germany. Well, Julian, you sent me this article. I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, it's kind of
and I'll give my critiques.
Yeah, I think before we start, like we're here to have an open discussion about this. We're not here to like, how do I say this? Like people will so easily can clip shit and things like that. This is an open discussion about what is the best way for women to have more power, right? Okay, maybe I need to phrase that better.
Julian, I opened this episode defending. Someone's going to clip out shit we said. I think they might go after the Giuliani bit rather than this part.
Germany's coalition government has agreed to a mandatory quota for women on the boards of listed companies in what's being hailed as a landmark movement for Europe's biggest economy. Listed companies with management boards of more than 3 executive must appoint at least one woman to the C-suite, whatever that means. Basically, this is saying that certain specific companies have to put a minimum amount of women on their boards. Now, in principle, we all agree that women there needs to be more women in these positions of power because look anywhere, you're going to just see a bunch of old white men in these companies making these decisions. But having the government force that is a different question in itself. Especially
former Nazis.
So I agree with the idea, but the idea of government saying you have to put these people here is tough for me. I'm in the middle. Like I don't know what's right or wrong. It's an open question.
Well, that's where my half a shout out goes because I think that's a good idea, but definitely a well-intentioned idea, but good intentions don't always equal good policy.
Right.
Like it is not it's not the country's job to run the board. It's the company's job, and whoever the company sees fit, that fits their company's, fucking, I don't know, model or whatever the hell you want to call it. Like, whoever fits. There is a problem that it is predominantly men. It's not knock all white people, Julian. It's a podcast for everyone. I don't think it's the government's place to do that.
This is where you and I are like more conservative because we've seen time and time again when a government tries to force its way into doing something, it usually ends up fucking it up. Like I think of like bailouts, certain I don't know. There's just so many things like school funding, for example. Like there's just so many examples where, yes, there's that intent, but the policy isn't applicable in practice. Like you know what I mean?
Right. So if like, I feel like it can just branch out to like, okay, a company is allowed to pick 2 of their own people. After that, the 3rd one has to be a woman. The 4th one has to be out of the country. The 5th one has to be this. It has to be a transgender. 6th one has to have a mental disability.
Right.
Like, where the fuck does it end?
Right.
Like, you are not running the company. You don't run the risks when this shit doesn't work out. So, half a shout out. Like, I definitely agree. There should be more women in powerful positions because, men have fucked the last 4 years up.
So I guess the question then is like, if the government doesn't, then who does?
Are you talking about like maybe affirmative action wise?
Right. Like that was the whole idea
Like
behind.
they kind of, yeah. So it is kind of like affirmative action, but for business.
Right.
And that's kind of where I was thinking in the beginning. One of the things with when Bernie was running, that I kind of was on the mindset, like, if you're going to be doing business in this country, there are certain agreements you're going to make with this government. Like, you're going to abide by these rules or find a different market to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, kind of where it's not the most well thought out, but it's a good starting point. Like, people are worried about all the big companies leaving. Be like, okay, let the small companies take over. Like, countries around the world, they market to us. We're one of the biggest markets in the fucking world. Like, if they want to leave and not sell to us, or like if they want to leave and make it somewhere else, I'm almost halfway on board saying, you can't sell it here, motherfucker. But I'll be screwing up the whole global shit, global trade. I understand that. But, if you're an American company and you leave to pay slave wages, I think it's well in our rights to be like, fuck you, you can't sell your shit here. There is some leeway on that argument. Like, if you are doing business here, you're going to agree to our terms. Then again, that's Germany, not America.
Right.
I don't know what their constitution entails. Probably no waiving of a certain type. Trying to be my well-known history people are out there.
Okay, but Ryan, I'm gonna go on a random tangent here off of what you just said.
Let's go.
So people sometimes hate when you say the argument that when does it stop? The idea that, well, is it going to stop with women? Is it going to stop with this? Is it going to stop with this? Is it going to stop with this? People usually hate that argument, right? But let me.
Those are my favorite arguments. The ones people hate.
True.
Prove it.
Don't. That needs to be a segment. Ryan Henry in Prove It. But to go off of that, when I was in France, there was discussion about the idea of the government in France banning the use, banning kids or girls from wearing hijabs, the scarf that women who are Muslim wear around their head. There was talk to ban the hijab in high school and middle school because they were saying
and
that
on the beaches.
And on the beaches. And that's exactly what you and I, Ryan, are talking about, is that like people are making a decision, like they're saying you can't follow your freedom of religion because like the government is forcing you not to follow your freedom of religion by saying you are not mature enough. Well, it's the family's decision. You can't tell somebody they can't wear a cross and then also tell them they can't wear a hijab. Like, that's way too far. That's really way too far. And that's what we're talking about, is that the government is making these decisions for the population thinking what's right or wrong. Like, yes, we all believe freedom of religion is right, but you can't then choose, well, you can't wear this in school because we don't think that's right. And that's what I mean by going too far, because in principle, it might sound right saying, well, girls need to have more freedom, but that's way too far. Like, what are you talking about? What, you're saying Islam isn't free for women? Like, whoa, you're making that broad generalization without knowing what the fuck you're talking about? Look at Christianity, look at Catholicism, look at any fundamental religion. And that's what I mean by taking it too far, because, yeah, so sorry for the random rant, but that's what I mean. That's what I could see happening, just like what they're doing in France, or attempting to do.
You shouldn't trust government. It's not. You shouldn't trust anything. Government should be up there number one.
Yeah.
And that I thought is being patriotic, at least in this country.
The whole idea of how we even toppled our former government,
Right, exactly.
Are you trying to think of a good joke?
I was actually thinking of, it was kind of off subject. I was watching John Oliver talking about, the past election, and one of the things he said that kind of stuck out to me was, like, there's a difference between people saying not my president and people saying not the president. Like, when Trump won, like, that was one of the thoughts. I was like, we weren't the best transition team either when Trump came in charge. But, old Johnny Boy put it in pretty good light. Like, people were saying not my president, like, as un-American as that could sound, like, that. I get it. Like, I'd say not my, I don't know this guy. we don't do this here. And then, like, not the president. That's kind of like just cutting against, like, the country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
I don't know. Another liberal talking point by Ryan Henry.
But I think it's a good segue. Right? I think this is a good segue into a question I have for you. This whole idea of government interference. Would stopping government funding for universities decrease the cost of college tuition?
All right, so we are going back to affirmative action. I don't know what the fuck would fix college pricing, but I do think government involvement definitely caused it. Like, more government was willing to give, say, loans. Like, the more money that the government will lend out, why wouldn't the colleges up their tuition, which you've clearly seen, and disgusting how high fucking prices have gotten for a lot of these universities.
Yep.
And a lot of people like to blame, I hear the NCAA get some blame for it. I can see why, but I just feel like the incentive to make it cost more money is too big. Like, it's such a money maker. It's like a casino. Everyone can make money on it except Trump.
I was not expecting
that. It just came to me. Trump college, Trump. I wonder how Trump's stakes were.
That'd be a great video. Try all of Trump shit. I mean,
you could try the Trump planes.
Yeah, no, I'm good. No. You're right. I mean, I'm not an expert on the history of government funding, but I think the idea of government funding, is usually it's usually for like a grant, like a scientific grant. Like it's very costly to do research, you know. So the idea is the government will supply you money so that you can conduct research on. I mean, God knows there's so many things you can research out there, medically, scientifically, chemically, whatever. But I'm not 100% sure how this government funding works, but the idea is that these universities get so much money and then they pass on that cost to its students, and then they have these bloated budgets. I mean, all of us who've been to university, how many departments or administrators are so unnecessary? Or they use the money to build a new building, And this idea, it goes back to this idea of competition. And you talked about incentivization, where if I'm, as a company, getting a bunch of free money, like we're all guilty of, if I have a bunch of free money, I'm going to probably spend it on a bunch of dumb shit. Ryan, can you testify to that?
I have no clue what you're talking about. The last half year, I've done nothing but work, and not spend money.
Yes, but if you had a lot of money.
I've worked the past month. Besides that, I've been laid off since March. And I'm making good money not working. Better money than I am now.
True. But if you were getting a bunch of free money, would you spend it on dumb shit? If you were getting big ass grants from the US?
Exclusively dumb shit.
I'd
starve to, that's how it goes. I'll cereal for the week just so I can get this stupid fucking thing.
So
yeah, I spend my money on stupid shit when I don't have a lot of money.
Right. And that's just the point I'm trying to make is, that's why capitalism can be a good thing, because this competition weeds out some of these, I think that's the argument, is that with this money that came from the government ended up just bloating the budgets of these universities. And then because they kept getting free money with no threat of severance, they are incentivized to keep making these budgets bigger and pass it on to their students, because why not? But if you cut off that funding, then they're like, oh shit, we can't keep spending money on this, and this. We need to make sure that students want to come here.
Yeah, and say they get like half of the tuition off from government grants or FAFSA, whatever it is, and you take out the loan for the other half. At 18, you definitely didn't learn this shit in school, unless you really good school you went to. I didn't learn shit about loans. I learned the good old hard way.
The worst way.
Yeah. The things you can do at 18 but can't do at 18 blow my mind.
Yeah.
I could sign my name here for $100,000. I don't have a single credit card or anything, but you're gonna give me this money because you think I'm gonna do good in school. That's a very high number. Let's say $20,000 for the year. And up until high school, all the time I've worked, I've maybe made $2,000 in my life.
Right.
Well, with PK, I guess I probably pushed it up higher, a lot higher. PK was a good job, money-wise. Jesus, can't believe I said that.
I'm editing that part out.
PK was not a good job.
I'm just gonna edit. PK was a good job and edit and take everything else out.
Oh, fuck you. It's just too easy to make that price high, and if you have the grades to get into the school, I could not wait to go to college. Like that was one of the things my dad always said, like to try and get me inspired to go to like get better at school. He's like, you know, you're not going to fucking Notre Dame college, not the high school. Fuck the Dons. He's like, you're not gonna get in Notre Dame with these fucking grades, man. Like, fuck, I really gotta. Every year I'd be like, all right, this is the year I do the homework. But every year they came out with a better video game, and it's like, next year.
I just wish this was a question. Fuck, I don't want to hear about healthcare anymore. I want to hear about this. Like, let's ask those politicians up there. Well, I mean, Bernie, yes, but like more productive ways, because all I hear about is government action. Like sometimes maybe the government needs to take a step back. Like we complain about the limited government shit, but now the U.S. government is the largest employer in the United States. Like 2.5 billion people work for the U.S. government, if not more. Like it's not limited anymore. It's not a limited government, and we need to take more steps. So maybe it's time for certain things to be. The government needs to take a step back on. We always hear about more and more and more and more. Maybe less and less and less is the answer sometimes, but I never hear less and less and less. You know?
Now I'm just spitballing. What if you make that argument for like school wise? Like, you know, I could see people making that argument for the EPA. Like, if the government is so bad at making these big decisions, why are you going to stop companies that, like, you know, energy has been, it's a very big industry economically. Come wartime, which I hope we don't have to worry about, that's definitely a source you need. And we are capable of being energy independent. We haven't been until recent years, and there's a pros and cons to that. Like what steps are we taking to be energy independent, and what concessions do we have to make to our own health or planetary health to reach that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I guess it falls back to the question of what is the government's responsibility to its people? Like, what is its responsibility? You know, and based on that question, you know, I look at it as they're responsible for the public safety of its population. And when it comes to the environment, I think there's no question that companies will not make decisions based on the public safety of where they're operating. So the government needs to step in and say, if you're not going to, we're going to punish you or shut you down. I think that's a big difference between making decisions on education and making a decision on shit related to the environment.
No, that's fair.
You know?
I mean, just 100 years ago, I feel like that's when the first like environmental like protection plans really went into effect, like trying to stop all these factories from polluting. I very well could be wrong on the time frame for that. Sorry if I sound weird. I'm going into the fridge for another beer. Oh yeah, Busch Light.
Scumbag.
Oh man, this might be my favorite beer to go with for cheese dips. I'm telling you, man. Like cheese dip and beer is like cheese dip is the best thing to go with when you're drinking beer. Really, because just look at the difference we've had, like, let's say in the last 100 years. Like, I don't think any factories or like any of these big corporations have like these environmental guidelines to follow. It started off as guidelines. I think now they're like laws, and you get shut down for it. And looking at late 1800s or early 1900s. Was that our second industrial boom around then, right?
No idea.
Or I think that's the term they called it. I only learned it 8 times in fucking grade school. But I don't feel like they had those guidelines. Like walking in New York City or Chicago would be like walking through a smog alert in Beijing.
I mean, the kid.
I feel like that shit was everyday life in industrial cities in early 1900s, late 1800s in America.
I mean, you're right. Like
or present day Pittsburgh.
how all those labor laws came into place, right? Like they were there to protect children and workers because they were working in horrible conditions.
So maybe it's not so much about government action, that maybe if we just took the money incentive out of government, let's just take the fucking money incentive out of everything. That'll fix it. Yeah. But first, money incentive out of government.
Yeah. Like when the government is giving money, like, you know, that's the problem with, we saw in Ferguson with the police department there, like they were incentivized due to money. That's how the police officers act. It's the same thing with these universities. They're incentivized to act very freely. And because there's no punishment, like if the government said, okay, if you need to decrease the cost of tuition by half for students, if you want to keep your money that we're giving you, something like this. It can't be so free with there needs to be more proper guidelines on how this money is given. Because you know none of the salaries are going to get cut of the top people. It's going to be programs for the people paying the tuition. Right. So I don't know exactly how that is, but like, I'm not saying like, yes, we should spend money on education, and government has a large responsibility because we give money as taxes so that we have public schools and roads and stuff like that. I'm not saying cut money to education, but when it comes to universities specifically, why is public universities so different from public high schools?
Right. And I feel like the first 2 or 3 years of your college experience should be high school. And high school, I feel like you could fit into the 8 pointless years of grade school.
Yeah.
Like by college, you should know. I mean, a lot of people know in the general area where they want to go in college, but people change a major all the fucking time.
And it's a waste of time.
Right. By college, you should be like, you should know. Like you shouldn't be paying an extra $5,000 a semester to be taking mandatory. I gotta pay $2,000 for fucking gym class. I had an older dickhead brother. I don't need to learn how to do weightlifting, okay? I know it may not look like it, but I wouldn't take back the college experience. I probably would make the same mistake again, knowing what I know now. I'd still probably be like, fuck it, I'm still getting out of this house. I don't care.
Well, that's the big differences, right? Like I don't think anybody disagrees that college is bad. It's just that people are now saying college is bad because of how expensive it is. Like everybody's parents went to school at a time where it was so affordable. Now I shouldn't make a decision whether or not I go to college because of how fucking expensive, not Yale or Harvard are, but the local fucking.
This just might be me, but I feel like I never really heard these arguments until I was in college. I was like, oh shit, when I was in high school, all I ever heard is, oh, you gotta go to college. And when I was in college, it's like everyone's talking about how fucking expensive and no one's can pay their loans. Like, why the fuck you guys talk me into this? I was getting drunk at home. Why I have to come out here? These people give me tickets.
Well,
they're not nice.
And this is why, like, in Europe, I wish I did this, but in Europe, it's very customary for the kids to do 1 year of volunteering. You know, like I wish we pushed that more. Like you don't ever hear about that option. Do 1 year of volunteering or 1 year of work.
Volunteering.
Yeah, like in places in Europe, not in Poland, but like Germany, UK, France. Like that's you'll run into a lot of 19-year-old students or 19-year-old kids everywhere that are just doing a year of volunteering. And it completely would change your perspective on everything, on like what you want to do. You grow up, you get mature a little bit more, everything. And you're like freshman year is a waste of time in college. Let's be real.
Classes was a good year.
Classes wise.
Yeah, that was my best year.
All right, fair enough.
I was on the fucking honor roll, man. Besides the fucking botany 305 that my dump. I told you that story, right?
Are the people going to hear this story?
Very first class I took, like I went to at Western. Yeah, fuck it. This is how stupid some, like at Western, like, they had like these advisors, like just advising groups of people at times. Like they just look over his shoulder, but yeah, it's a good transcript, press submit, and they'll be your schedule for the year. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Said I have to take a science class. They're all filled. The botany 305 is available. 8 o'clock. I can wake up. Okay. I didn't find out that 305 was, you know, the level of it because, you know, never did college. So first day of college, I'm psyched. I'm going to get this shit. I'm going to make something of myself. And I get in there, they just go straight into it. Like, whoa. Like, everyone here knows this shit already? Like, I'm looking around for the confused looks, and I'm the only asshole that is like, what's this guy talking about? Dude, I fucking hated science classes. Grade school and high school was least favorite shit. Now a little more interesting. But, yes. Oh man, that was the biggest shell shock. And God knows how much that bitch made. A terrible counselor.
I can't believe you. I know, like this, you're making the exact argument about why these universities should not be receiving money when your fucking counselor recommends you for botany 305.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say fuck that school. Fuck that town. A little bit that school.
We'll do an episode about doing a road trip back there, back to memory lane.
Oh man, I specifically want to go back there just for this chicken place.
And we can interview your old counselor.
I wouldn't know her name. I might be able to find her. It's for computer science. Yeah, let's let the fucking guy take botany 305 before he actually takes a computer class. Brilliant.
Oh man. All right. We got anything else on this subject? Or are we good?
I'm sure there's plenty more I can talk about for affirmative action in government roles. Like, you know, I think that's kind of where we're making that connection with like government saying, you know, you have to have one woman in this. You know, colleges have to have certain quotas in the U.S. now. Like, you have to have a certain percentage of this minority. Like, at a certain point, I feel like I really hate making this argument because I always see it's usually conservative saying like that shit's racist. I don't think affirmative action is racist, but it has racist qualities, to say the least. Like, you are saying, like, you are like giving value to races. Like you have like, and it's kind of racist. Like I would kind of say like, if you're saying we have to help out a certain group, like, if I'm in that group and I'm, grew up normal, like, unless I need the help, I don't need your extra help. Like, what I'm trying to
What?
kind of like helping a guy in a wheelchair. If it's common courtesy, but the guy's probably going to tell you to fuck off and say he could do it himself. I open doors every day of my life. Why are you helping me?
Right. It goes back to the idea, right? Is that you're forcing somebody to choose. Well, even the idea of race is dumb in itself, because like, what does that even mean? What, like, just because.
Right. Like just identifying your value from, like, you probably would have made it in, but, you're white, and if you had the Asian is much harder. They got a much harder field to. Affirmative action is actually the worst for the Asian American.
Well, but even that though, right? Like, what does that even mean? Like, Asian American? Asia is a massive continent. Africa is a massive continent. Europe is not massive, but it's also a continent. So us even making that kind of distinction is almost meaningless. Like, what does it mean to be Caucasian? You're just basically, let's be real. You're just saying your skin color is white. That's all you're saying.
Yeah, and you can be white from Africa, you can be white from anywhere.
Right? So
same thing for anything else.
Right. Like, think about how, like, Arab people in the United States, when they have to fill out those forms, what do they put themselves as? There's no section for Arabs. It's always white, Caucasian, African American, Asian, Pacific Island, and then Hispanic. There isn't one for Arabs, so they always have to put Caucasian, right?
They don't have other.
Oh, they might do other. You're right. They might do other, but that's probably not to their benefit based on how the system is run. So it goes back to what you said before. The intent,
for them, they get to make their own choice then.
Right. It goes back
2020. What do you identify as?
Yeah. I should have done that back then.
You want to be black today? You do you, boo-boo.
I got the genetic test. I got 1%, 0.5% in me. But it goes back to intent, right? Well, the intent was, obviously, there was a lot of universities not admitting students because they were black, right? So the government said, no, you need to force students. And in fact,
right.
We're going to make sure that this happens. Okay. Well, but then eventually, I don't know. Like, it's an open question. Is it now really rectified?
Back to our argument. Where does it end?
Right. 100%. I don't know if
I think that's a perfect case because, we should look more into that. Like, what is the law of affirmative action and how much of it is the college's decision and how much is the federal government? I feel like Harvard has their own guidelines on recruiting. Like, that's usually one that, like, don't they have a tough one?
Right. Well, and not only that, but it brings up another question is, like, if it's not race, then it will be something else, right? Because, for example, we've seen these cases of parents, rich fucking parents, getting their kids admitted to certain universities by sliding people some money or paying somebody to take their kids' tests. What's the difference? I'm making a broad generalization here, but that kind of action is the same thing that was disadvantaging certain groups now, is that financial capacity. So are we going to tell the government to say now, to help stop this from happening by saying, you, as a university, you need this amount of income. You need to admit people from this amount of income. You see where I'm going with this? Or no?
Yeah, and I think that would be still kind of overreaching on, like, you know, overstepping your boundaries of power. I think that would be a better route to go than race.
Right.
Because there are wealthy people of all races and colors. Like, just because you're rich, and I don't know.
It's tough because you can look at it through so many lenses, right? Because back in the day, they didn't admit people because they were black. That doesn't happen now, or as often, some people would argue. So, like, where is that? We need to relook at it. We need to update it, I think.
And I'm sure there are colleges with that bias.
Definitely.
And what I love about, one of the few things I do love about the power of social media is, like, I don't think it should be illegal to be that racist college. Let them be a racist college. Let only racists go there. Just get the word out. Let them be who they want to be.
Right.
Like, what's a fucking crazy people church on the East Coast?
Westboro Baptist Church.
Yes, thank you for remembering. I was nowhere near close of remembering that. Westboro Baptist Church. I don't think they should be outlawed. I think that this is what happens when you sniff too much paint, kids. That's why we don't use lead paint in the house.
And to be fair, the last point I'll say about that is you're right in that, because I think there's no question that disproportionately there's a higher percentage of African Americans that are lower income than maybe other groups of people. So I think that kind of distinction could actually help them more than not, right? Because you're actually targeting the African American community that is low income, as opposed to this broad generalization of maybe there are certain communities now that are doing much better than they were before. So now you're really targeting those inner city communities or southern Mississippi communities, these low income African American communities that really need the help, that really need to get their kids to get educated, you know?
Right. So, like, I can get behind, like, a government mandate saying, like, you have to have 20% of your student body there from a lower income family on, like, university paid student tuition assistance, not based on race. Because, like, if you're saying 20% has to be African American and you have to be helping with their tuition, what is it to help people if you have well-off, like, you got black people from Schaumburg taking that rather than people in the inner city of Chicago?
Right.
Like, you think the kids growing up in suburb of Schaumburg needs that break more than a kid and trying to get out of a fucking war zone?
Right.
It's where, like, the good intentions don't always mean good policy. Right.
And sometimes you just need to update policy, because I think at its advent, like, affirmative action was definitely
with the times.
Affirmative action was definitely needed when it first started.
Yeah.
No question. But now things have changed, and that good intent doesn't mean good policy anymore.
Hell, before affirmative action, the National Guard was needed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Was that Mississippi or Alabama?
I don't even know.
It was Alabama, because in Forrest Gump, he was in Alabama. Boom. For Jackass of the Week, I was kind of going back and forth between they both deserve it. Rudy Giuliani. I didn't want to give it to him again.
3-time All-Star appearance.
Was it the third time?
No, if you did them again, it would be third time, I think.
Oh, did I? I did give it to him the second time. My bad, Rudy. Not a good run. Oh yeah, it was a Borat 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Poor Rudy. And then their bombshell would be the right word. Sidney Powell, the 1 or 2 week attorney they had, until the massive amount of evidence she had just, never made it to court. And she said she's gonna be making, what is it? There's gonna be like something biblical coming out of Georgia this week. She says the Georgia election lawsuit will be biblical. Now imagine this in a North Carolina accent. Something like that. That's probably a terrible North Carolina accent. I apologize to anyone, who I just imitated, or people from North Carolina.
There you go. There you go again.
But she was in there and then she was out. Again, I don't want to shit too much on the press conference, because as crazy as a lot of shit sounds that they say, I'm crazy enough to think that there's a sliver possibility of truth. I just don't trust these people at all. I might even trust Pritzker further than these guys. Fuck it. I'm gonna give it.
You suck, you jackass.
You're having the biggest news conference for your client who's a president, and you're having your fucking hair leak. How far into the game of politics and news conferences, like, do you have to go to know that, like, why do you fucking need hair dye? Like, use this video to shut me up in 20 or 30 years if I ever use, like, Just for Men. Like, Ryan, you dye your hair? No. I'd never do that. Like, if you're going gray, fucking rock it. Especially if you're that old fuck. And believe me, people aren't looking at your hair when they're making fun of you. Rudy, the last thing people make fun of you is your hair. Well, before this was your hair.
Bro, I bet you there was a conversation, but where Rudy asked Trump, like, hey, how do you have your hair like that? Who does it for you? And Trump's like, hey, I got somebody for you. I guarantee you that conversation happened.
He just gave him a bottle. He's like, I just put this in my hair every day. Like, oh, it's coming black?
I'm telling you, some shit like that happened. I'm telling you.
R.I.P. America's favorite mayor.
Man, I do. No, I don't. I was going to say I kind of feel bad for him, but no, I don't.
No.
I mean, you're in that kind of political environment.
You think there's a better chance of him being a pawn of Russia or a part of Russia? I feel like Russia's got to be fucking around with this guy.
I bet you they had...
Like, they're just sending him shit that's like almost credible enough just to get him fired up.
Or he doesn't...
I'd be doing that, no doubt. If I was over in the Kremlin, I'd be like, this is the guy we just gotta get in the DMs. We gotta get the Hornets Nest going.
Oh, absolutely. All the shit that Giuliani was saying.
I would have a team just trying to talk to Rudy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so my uncle, he's a poll watcher, and he saw there were a lot of boxes. Now, some of them look like pizza boxes, but there could have been like a good 20 ballots in there. And that's actually not far off from an actual story I had heard from one of these accusations. I told you that one when the cameraman was bringing his shit in for the Philadelphia counting where someone had later tried to shoot up.
Yeah.
That was the Thursday, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I forget. The Thursday they tried to shoot it. It was Wednesday morning that they had supposedly saw him bringing in very small wagons of ballots. Best way to hide illegal activity, just roll like a train of wagons behind you that can fit in maybe at best 100 ballots per wagon.
Right.
There's not a lot for paper.
Right.
It will be biblical.
Biblical. Amazing. Biblical.
But I was also wondering, maybe they cut her loose because she was going after Georgia pretty rough in that press conference. And like she was going after Republican lawmakers in Georgia. And if this backfires, Georgia's got a runoff coming up in 2 months. So maybe they're trying to, like, she's swinging for the moon right now. And if she whiffs, she's going to hit someone.
What a great metaphor.
Yeah. Played enough baseball or, watched enough on the bench. I took a couple swings in my life. Can't wait to see their next news conference. Just come out with a wig.
He's going to come
that
out
would
bald.
be owning the media. Like, just come out in a blonde afro. That would just own everything.
I bet you he shaves.
Like,
Rudy looks like he's gained some weight too, man. Like a lot.
Oh yeah, on that Trump diet.
Burgers and Coke.
Well, fancy eating in the White House turned to fast food, so not the healthiest shit. Finally got that bitch Michelle out. Now we can have burgers again.
So crazy, bro.
That goddamn Michelle Obama kept telling me I had to eat my salad before dinner. Who do you got for Beacon of the Week, my man?
Man, I've got a Beacon of the Week this week that's a little bit more well-known that people have probably heard of. She's got 10 million Instagram followers, so y'all probably know her. The Beacon of the Week is 17-year-old Greta Thunberg. Man, she's
#fuck school.
have you ever heard her speak, Ryan?
Yeah. There's a time when I'm watching it and I want to make jokes about it, and there's times like she's intense.
Yeah.
She's definitely intense about what she's talking about. And I don't know, part of me sometimes when I hear her speak, it's like all right, you're kind of like over dramatizing it. I believe in like climate change and all that. We need to take action, but like just how emotional she gets sometimes. Like, you have stolen my future. Like, I mean, it's affecting us, but you're kind of blowing that one out of proportion, kid. As far as I know, my future is still going to be here. Your kid, Greta, might be in a tough situation. If you have kids, Greta, they might be in a tougher situation, but your future is still pretty good climate-wise.
Well, I think that's where she's making the argument that it's not, 30 years from now.
That's where I want to come off sounding like a Republican. Like, I don't know if I trust that science, like how soon we'll be in deep trouble, irreversible damage trouble.
Right.
It is climate change. It doesn't surprise me that it's due to human activity. And it's kind of like fixing college prices. Like, I know what caused it. I just don't know what's going to fix it. Like, is stopping it Like, because I don't think we're ever gonna fully shut down our energy production.
Right.
And that's not the only issue we have for the climate. We have just general use. How many islands have we made just out of garbage in the ocean?
Yeah.
We don't treat the earth too well.
But
Bombing the fuck out of it. I wonder if that's ever had an issue. Is the planet supposed to be blown up? Does nuclear bombs have an effect on the earth? Like, did that ever like just screw it up? Be like, ooh, that, like, I don't know.
so I get what you're saying, but I'm gonna be on Greta's side. Think about, for example, people that live on Pacific Islands who can't call that island anymore because of the rise of the ocean.
That's fair. Yeah.
You know?
I guess I'm talking from a non-coastal point of view.
Right. I get what I'm with you. But there are a lot of islands out there that have already been taken over by water, and generations of these cultures that have been there for however long cease to exist because of the rising of water. But this is, she is only 17, and the fact that she's right or wrong, or how strongly or not or whatever, the fact that she's out there like in front of Parliament asking for climate change, like she's pushing that agenda to hold governments responsible. How much they're responsible, or it doesn't matter. At least she's out there, trying to hold somebody accountable, namely the government,
I
And
hate to ask the asshole question, but she make money out of this?
as a 17-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
she will probably make money off the documentaries that are made about her, but she
I
doesn't
just
have.
saw one on Hulu. I mean, who's paying? Because she's going around Europe for speeches. Someone's got to be funding that. Someone's got to be funding her. I don't think her parents are splitting the bill for her going, like, all her food around wherever her travels are.
Sure. I mean, if she's invited to a conference, like a big conference, like a UN conference, I'm sure that the UN has some type of stipend, travel stipend, that they would give her for her to be able to get there.
What about a more liberal college that wants her to speak there? Speaking fees. Are there laws in Europe that say you can't give 17-year-olds 5,000 euros or whatever the fuck that comes out to come speak at the university?
I have no idea.
I'm not trying to say money's corrupting or point of view. I'm just saying, like, like I said, asshole question. Like, is she making money out of just going and repeating what she's saying? Kind of, to an extent, I think it does take away a little of the, say, heroism of the plight. Paid speak, Martin Luther King wasn't getting paid.
But
he did have sponsors.
Right. And if he was still alive, I guarantee you that he would have, gotten paid speeches whenever he would speak at a university or conference,
Yeah.
But
no, but I'm just saying, like, the usual narrative I hear is like, I thought she was way younger than 17, to be honest. When did she start all this shit?
She started at the age of 15 when she started spending her school.
Only 2 years ago?
Yeah, August 8th.
Good Lord, this has been a long 4 years.
At age 15, she started spending her school days outside the Swedish parliament to call for stronger action on climate change by holding up a sign reading "School Strike for Climate." Soon, other students engaged in similar protests in their own communities, and then they organized Fridays for Future, and then she started gaining a lot of fame, and then that's when she started doing the speaking stuff. And but I think another big aspect of why people are really drawn to her is that she has Asperger's syndrome.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, she does. So that's part of like, a part of the inspiration for a lot of folks is that she's speaking on this platform and she has that syndrome, and she's still out there.
Dude, they're smart.
Yeah.
And I'm very sorry to anyone I might offend. Like, they can sometimes come off as a little socially awkward, but man, they are fucking smart about the shit they're interested in.
Exactly.
They like, if they take an interest in it, I would not want to talk to her about climate change without knowing my shit. I bet you she can run those numbers like Rain Man. Again, no offense.
No, but you're right though. I mean, she's, there's a lot of, I think now it's a little bit better, but there's always been a certain stigma when it came to that, right? And maybe there's bullying been involved or depression for kids, whatever. The fact that she's out there and she's killing shit, at her age, like, it's cool for the kids that might be struggling, if they have that, to like be able to look at her for that,
I might have heard that, but that's pretty fucking cool. Good on her.
Yeah. You know what? And I love the idea of a 17-year-old girl talking some shit up to these politicians who are sitting on their ass and making money off of whatever,
Yeah. Gotta be a rough day when you're getting burned by a 17-year-old with Asperger's. Dude, I shit you. The one kid, I'm pretty sure that's the first kid I met that someone told me that Asperger's, and that's the first time I've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Once I heard of it and knew what it was, I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure I've known a couple people with that, because like it's hard to describe like that social part. Like I don't know. The one kid that went to Western with us, like, he was definitely a little odd, but he can literally, any movie he had watched. You think I'm good with movie lines? This guy can literally, like, start to finish, like, he can probably read you the entire script of Pulp Fiction by heart.
Right.
That's good entertainment when I was drunk as fuck, let me tell you.
And hey,
it's just do a Samuel Jackson from Pulp Fiction. Oh, damn.
And you got to be like, she has to be the only person in the world where she's been publicly criticized by both Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump, and the Brazilian president.
Now that's a resume.
Yeah. Let me read to you. You're gonna laugh at these.
All I can put is housekeeper for a couple of years, mover.
Look, Vladimir Putin last year said, Thunberg is a kind girl and very sincere, but he also suggested she was being manipulated to serve other interests. Putin criticized her as poorly informed. No one has explained to Greta that the modern world is very complex and different, and people in Africa or many Asian countries want to live at the same wealth level as Sweden. I get
So
that.
kind of a Putin way of saying check your privilege.
Yeah, exactly. Which is fair, right? But I'm going to be.
That's kind of where I started off with the argument, though.
But it would be one thing if she was doing that, like if she was out there protesting at like in India or in in China, like if she's going to her own government and trying to hold her own government responsible and bring so much awareness to the issue, It's like, yeah, there's some privilege being born in Sweden, and other developing countries are trying to catch up to everybody else. But the wealthy countries aren't doing nearly enough to check their own use of environmental damage. Like the U.S., how responsible it is. I mean, we literally just talked about military pollution in Japan, you know, like how these, and corporations in the United States. Like, yes, China as well, but it's fair to criticize ourselves. I mean, Russia is definitely responsible. The only thing is, if Greta was born in Russia, they'd probably shut her ass up. But you want to know what the
no more
you
Greta who?
Right. And you know what the Brazilian president called her?
Oh, since it's recorded, I'm not gonna do a guess.
Okay. He called her a Paraula because she's a brat. Greta said that because she criticized the Brazilian president for indigenous people are literally being murdered for trying to protect the forest from illegal deforestation. And it is shameful that the world remains silent about this. The Brazilian president, Bolsonaro, which by the way is super like Trump, said that Greta said that and he said, Greta said that the Indians were dying because they were trying to protect the Amazon. It is impressive how the press gives voice to such a brat.
But she never said she was wrong.
Right. And then Trump, like, this is what I don't get. Trump tweeted about her.
Fucking internet.
Trump tweeted about her. Greta must work on her anger management problem, then go to an old-fashioned movie with a friend. Chill, Greta, chill. And then, dude, this is why you would love her. Guess what? You know what she changed her Twitter bio to the next day? She changed her bio to, I'm a teenager working on her anger management problem, currently chilling and watching a good old-fashioned movie with a friend. Savage, bro. Savage.
No, high school arguments were always funny, but I never imagined one of the kids in my high school arguing with the fucking president.
And giving no fucks, dude. I love it.
Who's your Twitter beef with this week? This guy fucking Donald Trump won't get off my feed. I don't know. I think I might have to tell my dad. He's getting a little weird.
Shout out to Greta Thunberg. She's our beacon of the week. I think at the end of the day, wherever you stand on climate change, I wish more young people would get more involved.
Yeah, and don't listen to me. I'm a middleman. I just try and see both sides. Sorry, Greta, for criticizing you, but I'm gonna stop.
You about to get a Twitter beef with Greta. And she'd fuck you up.
She would. Fuck it. I'll bring my own Asperger's to the table. Dom, I'm calling you out. Get your Pulp Fiction lines ready. Fuck it. Reach out to her. Get her in for a fucking interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just two 26-year-olds trying to set up an interview for a 17-year-old high school girl. Get back to us if you're interested. I don't know. We've done a different country for every interview.
Have we?
Let's fucking go, Sweden.
Oh yeah, you're right. We have. I didn't even notice that.
Haven't even had an American yet.
Yeah, we did.
Your mom?
No, the last interview we just did.
I consider him from Africa.
His white ass?
Right. No. He lived in Uganda for a year or two. I don't care where he was or is right now. We're giving the credit to Uganda.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that about wraps it up for the day, don't you think?
I think so.
What do we got coming up for the next couple of episodes for the people listening?
So Ryan and I will have a very, very fun segment that we're excited about. We will be doing an episode based on all of Trump's pardons, but we're going to make it fun and entertaining.
Try to.
We
will.
We'll make it very fun and entertaining. You and I need to talk about some ways to do it, because this will be a good one. So we gotta make this one good.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Trump's pardons.
Oh man, are you though?
Yes.
Because when we came up with this idea, we only dug into like 4 of them, and we were having a good time.
Yes.
And how many was it? It's like a couple hundred, right?
No,
It's like 300 or 100 something.
He what's the word? Not excommunicated. It's not pardoning, but it's when you decrease.
Exonerated?
No, it's when you decrease the sentence, not pardon them. He only pardoned, I want to say, less than 50 people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if anything, if I remember, it was like 27, if I remember correctly. He did a lot more for the other, which was like reducing sentences. I forget the name of the fucking word. Excommunicate is some communist shit.
That does sound right, though.
Yeah, it was definitely like 27, if not less. Yeah.
No, I mean the word excommunicated. It does sound right for some reason.
Hold on. Let's get it right before we go. Trump.
Well, you know, me and them commies.
The word is either granted executive clemency is the fancy word, or
Clemency.
commutations, yeah.
Let's stick with excommunicated. Fuck you, Google.
So I think that'll be the next one.
Oh, yes. I'm sure we'll have more to bring you from Giuliani and, well, maybe Sidney Powell, or she's just going to take a couple steps back into the crowd and hopefully no one remembered this. All right. Well, Julian, as always, good talk. I'll see you next time.
Let's do it.
Thank you, everyone. Peace.
Peace.